What does it take to break a god? I'm not talking about a superhero or a king. I'm talking about the bedrock of reality itself. What kind of grief is so heavy, so impossibly vast, that it can unravel the master of the cosmos? We usually think of Lord Shiva as the supreme ascetic, the Mahayogi. We picture him sitting in absolute frozen stillness on the peaks of the Himalayas, lost in a meditation that spans eons. He is the silent center of a universe that is constantly spinning out of control. He is the eye of the storm. But what happens when that stillness shatters? What force in existence could possibly transform the Lord of Peace into the Lord of Terror? To find the answer, we have to go back. Before the destruction, before the fire, we have to go back to a time of perfect love and the terrible price that was paid for it. This is not just a story about a dance. This is the story of a love that defied the laws of society, a sacrifice that scorched the heavens, and a grief so violent it birthed the Rudra Tandava, a dance that threatened to end the universe right then and there. Let's set the scene. Before the rage, there was a romance that made the stars jealous. High up on the unforgiving, icy slopes of Mount Kailash, Lord Shiva, the Adiyogi, the first yogi, found his perfect counterpart. Her name was Sati. And Sati wasn't just anyone. She was the cherished daughter of Prajapati Daksha, a king of immense power, obsession, and even greater pride. Think of Daksha as the ultimate establishment figure. He was a creature of rules, rituals, hierarchies, and status. He loved order. And then there was Shiva. Shiva was the complete opposite. He was wild. He was smeared in ash from cremation grounds. He had no lineage, no gold, no palace. To Daksha, Shiva wasn't a god. He was a dirty, uncivilized hippie, a disruptive force that didn't belong in polite society. But Sati saw something her father couldn't. She looked past the ash and the snakes and saw the truth of the cosmos in Shiva's tranquil gaze. She saw that his stillness held the universe together. Against her father's direct, screaming orders, she chose Shiva. She traded the silk sheets of the palace for the cold rocks of Kailash, and it worked. Their union created a perfect cosmic balance. Sati was Shakti energy itself. Shiva was consciousness. When they came together, the destroyer became Shambho, the benevolent one. For a brief moment in eternity, the cosmos was in perfect equilibrium. The gentle goddess had tamed the wild god. It was a golden age. But here is the catch. Peace is fragile when it's built on the bruised ego of a powerful man. King Daksha hadn't moved on. That rejected pride was festering inside him like a poison, waiting for the perfect moment to explode. And that moment came with a fire sacrifice, a yajna. Daksha decided to host the greatest spiritual event the world had ever seen. The scope of this thing was massive. He sent golden invitations to every corner of the universe. Every god, every celestial musician, every sage, every minor deity got an invite. The sky was literally thick with traffic as the gods flew their chariots toward Daksha's kingdom. Everyone was invited. Everyone except two people. Shiva and Sati. This wasn't an oversight. It was a calculated, brutal, public slap in the face. From the heights of Kailash, Sati watched the celestial procession. She saw her sisters, her family, the entire divine community heading home without her. Her heart ached. Not for the ritual, she didn't care about the fire, but for her father. She naively believed that if she just showed up, if she just looked him in the eye, his fatherly love would override his pride. Shiva warned her. He told her, Don't go where you aren't respected. Nothing good comes from forcing your way into a house that has locked its doors to you. But Sati was driven by hope. She went anyway, and when she arrived, the scene was spectacular. Chanting priests, roaring fires, the smell of sandalwood and ghee. But the moment Daksha saw her, the music stopped. He didn't hug her. He didn't welcome her. He unleashed a flood of venom. In front of the entire assembly of gods, he mocked her. He ridiculed Shiva, calling him a corpse burner, a weirdo, an outcast, unfit to breathe the same air as the civilized gods. And the worst part? The silence. Sati looked around at the other gods' beings who had praised Shiva before, and they said nothing. They looked at the floor. They were complicit in their silence. Sati's heart didn't just break, it incinerated. She realized that by keeping this body given to her by her father, she was tied to his toxicity. She looked at the assembly and said, "This body you gave me, I don't want it anymore." She didn't use a weapon. She didn't jump into the altar fire. She sat down, closed her eyes, and went into a trance so deep, so intense, that she ignited the Yogagni, the mystic fire that lies dormant within the body. She literally burned herself up from the inside out, fueled by sheer grief and willpower. She left nothing behind but ash and the devastating silence of a mistake that could not be undone. When the news reached Kailash, the silence broke. Shiva's meditation didn't just end. It shattered like glass. The stillness that held the universe together evaporated. A grief so profound, so heavy, washed over him that it bent the laws of physics. But in a god of that magnitude, grief doesn't stay grief. It curdles instantly into rage. Shiva stood up. He reached to his head, tore out a lock of his matted hair, Ajata, and smashed it against the mountain. Crack. From that impact, a nightmare was born. Virabhadra rose from the ground, a colossal warrior, dark as a thunderhead, bristling with weapons, his eyes burning with the same pain Shiva felt. Shiva gave him one order: destroy it. Destroy the sacrifice. Destroy the arrogance. Leave nothing standing. Virabhadra descended on Daksha's palace like a hurricane made of knives. The beautiful ceremony turned into a slaughterhouse. Tables were overturned, the sacred fires were stomped out, and the gods who had stayed silent were beaten down. It was total chaos. Virabhadra found King Daksha trembling by the altar and ended it. He decapitated the king, throwing his head into the very fire he had built to show off his power. The ego was dead. But the violence didn't fix the heartbreak. Retribution is empty. Shiva arrived at the smoking ruins of the palace. He ignored the trembling gods. He ignored the destruction. He walked straight to the spot where Sati had burned. He picked up her lifeless, charred body and placed it on his shoulder. And then he lost his mind. A roar ripped through the throat of the Creator, a sound so desolate it cracked the tectonic plates. And then he began to dance. This was not the Ananda Tandava, the happy dance of creation we see in statues. This was the Rudra Tandava, the dance of the howler, the dance of dissolution. Imagine the physics of this. Every time his foot hit the ground, the earth split open. Mountains crumbled into dust. The oceans rose up in tsunamis that swallowed continents. The stars began to shake loose from the sky. His hair lashed around like cosmic whips, smashing into solar systems. His third eye, the eye of pure destruction, began to pulse, leaking a fire that threatened to burn the fabric of space-time itself. The gods watched in absolute terror. They realized this wasn't just a tantrum. Shiva was grieving so hard he was going to delete existence. He was going to hit the reset button on the entire universe. He was dancing the world into oblivion. They ran to Lord Vishnu, the preserver, screaming for help. You have to stop him. There will be nothing left. But Vishnu knew you cannot stop Shiva with force. You can't fight a storm. You have to diffuse it. Vishnu saw that Shiva was anchored to his madness by one thing, the body of Sati on his shoulder. As long as he held her, he would never stop dancing. So Vishnu did something heartbreakingly pragmatic. He followed the dancing Shiva across the sky, and using his Sudarshana chakra, his spinning disc weapon, he began to cut. Gently, precisely, he sliced away parts of Sati's body, piece by piece. An arm here, a leg there, an ornament there. As the weight on Shiva's shoulder grew lighter, the madness began to fade. Where Sati's body parts fell, the earth was instantly sanctified. Her eye fell in one place, her throat in another. These 51 spots became the Shakti Pithas, the seats of power that dot the map of India today. The geography of the land is literally a map of Shiva's grief. Finally, the last piece fell. Shiva stopped. The weight was gone. He looked around, blinking as if waking from a trance. The rage evaporated, leaving only a deep, silent sorrow. The universe stopped shaking. The fire in the third eye dimmed. We were safe. In the aftermath, Shiva displayed the ultimate act of grace. He forgave. He restored Daksha to life, but he replaced his head with that of a goat, a permanent, living symbol that his ego had been slaughtered. So, why does this story matter to you? Why do we still tell it? Because the Rudra Tandava isn't just about a god getting angry. It's a roadmap for reality. It teaches us that destruction is not the opposite of creation. It is the partner of creation. You cannot have the new without burning the old. Daksha represented the old structures, the arrogance, the rigid ego. Shiva had to burn that down so that something pure could emerge. This happens in the stars, and it happens in your life. Sometimes your world has to fall apart. Sometimes you have to dance through the grief and the chaos to burn away your own illusions, your own Daksha. It is a terrifying process. It hurts. But on the other side of that destruction, that is where the new life begins. Sati was reborn as Parvati, and she won Shiva again. The cycle completed itself. The Rudra Tandava is a reminder that even when your world is ending, even when you are dancing in the ruins, you are just preparing the ground for the next act of creation.